Back Row Ministry, the world premiere, Mr. Maki coming back at you live and direct. So, trying to step away from a lot of the stress of the world and do a piece. Sometimes I just like to do, pieces about things that I've been thinking about, while listening to music. Music is something that I love. And I want to do a piece on MC Hammer and discuss, in my opinion, because everything is opinionated, what happened to the Hammer. So, when we talk about MC Hammer, we got to remember that after 85, hip hop pretty much had changed drastically. A lot of the legends of hip hop came out of the 80s. A lot of legendary groups. We talk about BDP. We talk about Scott LaRock. We talk about EPMD. We talk about Public Enemy. We talk about LL. We're talking about groups like Houdini. A lot of these groups, Dougie Fresh, our legends appear. Queen Latifah, all these folk came about around that time, after 85. We started to see this influx of hip hop legends. We talk about the Juice Crew and the legends of the Juice Crew. And around that time in 86, MC Hammer appeared. So Hammer, of course, for those who know, came out of Oakland, California. And remember this. Now, everybody needs to remember this. Hammer did not come out before Too Short. Too Short was out way before Hammer. Too Short had dropped, I want to say, early 80s, 82, 83. Too Short was about my brother-in-law's age. I'm 51, my brother-in-law's 61. So Too Short had already really became an Oakland inner city legend around that time. So he's already building up momentum. By 88, remember, Too Short dropped, I think it's about his second or third album. And, Don't Fight the Feeling is on that album. Life is Too Short, which is the album that he dropped, which is a classic, but it's just one of his albums. Too Short has classic albums. But right around this time, Hammer's able to politic his way into the music business because he's a great politician. He found his own funding sources through the Oakland Athletics, relationships he built up in Oakland. So a lot of things about Hammer people did not know. And, him and Too Short had a little bit of beef, but I think it was just because Hammer was getting more of a commercial light than Too Short was at the time. But Too Short, it was a legend within his own right. I think both of those guys really put Oakland on the map. And said those guys, Tupac can claim Oakland, but he's not Oakland. He's really an East Coast dude who was between both. So when we talk about Digital Underground coming out of that Oakland area, that area started to pick up some steam. And the Bay Area, since that time, really started picking up steam with a lot of great artists, E40, Spice One, and a lot more coming out of that area. Saphir, guys like that. But Hammer drops in 86. And I think the thing that really set Hammer apart from everybody else was, remember, a lot of people were still sampling. A lot of people had really just started getting into sampling, and we heard a large amount of samples. Now, if you remember, around 86, prior to 86, it wasn't a lot of sampling. There's a lot of looping. They loop a track, but there was a lot of original tracks made in this period. Everything wasn't a sample. So when you think about Dougie Fresh, that album was a lot of original tracks. A lot of original tracks that made Dougie Fresh's album when they dropped All the Way to Heaven, when they dropped The Show. These are original tracks. They got these are tracks that are legendary. Some of the best produced hip hop albums of all time. Slick Rick around that time when he dropped his album. These are just masterfully produced albums with hell of musicians. So when Hammer comes out, he's backed by a musician. His producer is a musician. So Felton C. Palat II was very instrumental in Hammer's momentum in the 80s. And being a member of Confunction, having that funk R&B sound, we hear that early in Hammer's music. Hear that early in Hammer's music. So 86, he does Feel My Power with Hammer. Love's Train, if you remember Love's Train, he's a brother from Jackson. My people are from that part of the Delta. A lot of great entertainers came out of that. But Felton was behind Let's Get It Started, Please Hammer Don't Hurt 'Em, Too Legit to Quit. Anything that was Hammer, Felton had produced. And that's the thing I believe, in my opinion, that kind of separated Hammer and kept him separate for a while, because it wasn't heavily sampled music. It wasn't just a track. That would change. But it just wasn't, hey, we're going to take this sample and boom, 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 let's loop it. So when Hammer comes out with his first album, Feel the Power was kind of that first track. Yeah, a little bit of momentum. But when Hammer dropped Let's Get It Started in 88, he came out with that nasty funk R&B James Brown rap style that created who he was. And a lot of people, when Hammer came out, said, well, Hammer can't rap. Well, Hammer was a James Brown dancing rapper and an entertainer. And his raps were hard. The beats was hard. If you listen to the beats on that Ringum, Cold Gold, he's coming hard. And Hammer always, he came hard. So I think people, they hear gangster rap and think that's hardcore rap. No, hardcore rap is when your beats are just coming, when your lyrics are coming, where you daring anybody to get on the mic against you, when you daring anybody to get on the stage. Because remember, at that time doing shows, you did not want to go first. Back then the competition was so tight. When certain acts, we talk about Run DMC was pretty much running it during that time in the early 80s. You don't want to go on before Run DMC. You don't want to go on before BDP. You don't want to get caught out there like that. And you damn sure don't want to go on before MC Hammer. So, these guys are at that bar. And I think hip hop struggles because the bar dropped. There were artists who had the opportunity to set the bar high. Kendrick Lamar could have set the bar high. Kanye set the bar exceptionally high. Everybody had to catch him. Drake had the opportunity to set the bar high, but then he's decided to rap like everybody else instead of setting the standard. So back then in the 80s, a lot of these kids, they wouldn't get no contract. Negative Style, and they wouldn't sign. And we had bad rappers in the 80s and 90s. Don't get it twisted. There were some bad rappers. But we see their jeopardy. They didn't last long. Think about the female rappers who are legendary. The Queen Latifahs, the MC Lights, Salt and Pepper, even Salt and Pepper. But they got better. They improved as they moved through their music career and were able to make some classic and legendary songs. But they set a standard. A lot of female rappers, that standard is look at Roxanne Shante. The standard was high. And they was coming at each other. These girls, they come at each other, but their standard is low. Their standard is very low. And a lot of them wouldn't have got contracts. A lot of these rappers today would not have been signed by any label, because who would buy their product? And we had garbage male rappers too. But there's a reason why people hit that legendary status. It's a reason why people hit that legendary status. It was a reason. So definitely you want to continue to look at Hammer during this period of 88, this groundbreaking album, Let's Get It Started. And it puts Hammer on the map because Hammer has set a new standard. Hey, can you out-entertain me? To the point where he was trying to go after Michael Jackson. He wanted to be on Michael Jackson level because Mike was the standard for an entertainer. So Hammer wanted to get to that standard of, as a hip-hop artist, as an entertainer, hey, you got to get to this level. This is how I'm coming. And Hammer came very hard. So my favorite Hammer album is Let's Get It Started for the production. The production was great on that album. The tracks was hard. It's none of this garbage. The problem with hip-hop today is everybody thinks they can be a producer. But you have to be a musician to be a producer. And some people say, well, no, because if you just hear the music or hear the sounds, no. Musicians hear sound and put together sounds differently. You don't even have to know how to read music to be a skilled musician. So, when we talk about Too Short was a drummer in high school. So the way that he hears sounds is different. And you see a lot of his tracks are more drum orientated because everything has the flow around the drums. James Brown was not a skilled, trained musician, but he heard sounds at a different level and he got people around him that heard sounds a different way. So that what made James Brown kind of a very um, desired entertainer because he knew how to put stuff together. So these guys today, they don't know how to put anything together. They don't get skilled producers around them. And Hammer was smart enough to get a skilled producer, and he just brought the flavor that he had to the music that he was hearing, which was high powered. That James Brown feel was a big influence in Hammer's music career and dance career, because he had that flair, and Hammer brought that flair. So let's get it started. I think started that momentum that Hammer wanted. He was in the game. He was in the door. Did he get respect? Yes, because this was really an urban based album. This was more for the urban community. Let's get it started. But it could have crossed over into pop. But pop has a way of playing the game. The minute they see that, hey, we could take this and do something, the big labels back then, the MCAs, the Warners, they're going to try to twist it up and do what it is they do. So this is where they take Hammer to. He's got the suit on. When we get to Please Hammer, Don't Hurt Him, they want to box this up. They want to market this. And Hammer was very influential in how he marketed himself. But when we get to Please Hammer, Don't Hurt Him, we start to see some loops. We start to see James Brown samples because a lot at that time people are using those James Brown samples. Some people are paying James, some people aren't. I think Hammer was one of those who did pay James. But we started to see these loops, and now we're taking Rick James loops with Can't Touch This, and that's pretty much do 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 do, and that's it with Felton Polite adding to the loop. But we start to see more looping in Hammer's career. And I think this is where musically they start making some mistakes because you go from original production to loops. And loops were popular back then because if you loop, and even before that, with Rapids Delight is a loop. And you take that loop, that's a loop. And you take that loop and you loop it, and it's a popular song. And music has been doing that for a while. Reggae music. We talk about dancehall is looping, and they'll take a song and change it up, and it's always been like that. But hip hop started to take these loops, popular songs, they were catchy, and then we throw the lyrics on top. We still do that to this day. You got some people who are very very skilled at doing this. So, we talk about 87, 88, 89, looping is the thing. You get the popular track, and you're going to have a hit if you pick the right loop. But the problem is you box yourself. With original music, you give a person a chance to decide if this is going to be a classic. With looping, you have to pick the right loop. It's still the same, but if you're not picking 10 loops that are able to be hits, then you're going to stagnate. Where, you might have one or two. Some albums going in the 80s and 90s might have one tight loop, and then they were struggling to get the other songs to get the same amount of attention because of that one loop. So I think this hurt hip hop where, the need to find perfect loops stifled the ability to create. Need to find perfect loops stifles the ability to create. So you got Felton Palat, who's a producer by nature. He's a creator. He creates tracks. Now you got him sampling and adding on drum tracks. And this, Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him does not have the same amount of hits as Let's Get It Started. But this was Hammer's biggest album because Can't Touch This was a popular loop, a Rick James loop. And, Super Freak was a big song. So he just took Super Freak. I don't even know if he paid Rick James, but he took Super Freak, he looped it, threw some drum track on it, became one of his bigger hit, and Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him, put him in that stratosphere. But in my opinion, kind of locked him because once Pop got a hold of him, they wanted everything to sound cheesy, and that's not Hammer. Hammer was hard, so they took Hammer that was hard and made Hammer cheesy. Now he made a lot of money. He made a lot of money, but at the same time, he got boxed up. So Hammer takes a lot of flack around this period of Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him. He takes a whole lot of flack for Please Hammer Don't Hurt Him. So by the time we get around to Too Legit to Quit, Hammer is huge. Hammer's big. Hammer, he wants to go after Michael Jackson because, he wants to be a big entertainer. And Too Legit to Quit should have been that album where we take this momentum and we transfer it into mega success, where we're really about to set the bar, the standard high. But something happened along the way. So, yeah, Hammer is moved into pop. He's made a lot of money. Evidently would lose a lot of money because Hammer was a good dude. That's one thing that people don't talk about. All the things that Hammer was doing in Oakland, jobs he was providing for people. He really looked out for a lot of folks, but that would hurt him in the end. But Hammer's got this tremendous momentum. That video with James Brown, and James Brown passes over the torch to him, and James was cool with him and Mike. James had his little beef with Mike because he thought Mike had stole a lot of his dance style. It was funny story. They all got along fine, but Mike finally went and paid homage to James Brown. He paid homage to James Brown because he loved James Brown. Jackie Wilson, James Brown was two of Mike's favorites, but Hammer, he loved James Brown. He loved, and he always paid homage to James. But we get to Too Legit to Quit, and I think that the criticism that Hammer started to receive was too much. He's getting hit from all sides. He's getting attacked by a lot of people for being too pop. He's a sellout. Everybody's at third base is after him. Too Short is after him. Pretty much all hip hop is after him. And this is hip hop that has not been accepted by a pop audience. But what they weren't seeing was Hammer was opening the door. The Run DMC had opened the door for guys like Hammer the Cold Dude, but Run DMC also opened the door for hip hop to broaden its base and really be out there. But Hammer was keeping that door open where, hey, we can make as much money as we want to. And it was guys like Hammer, groups like Run DMC that kind of opened this door and made hip hop a marketable force where, guys could get out there. But it still was underground music. And I think that got lost. I mean, some of these young cats, when they're on social media and they're doing their music underground still and really, really making an impact, still have that touch with the underground culture of hip hop. But their product is not really what it needs to be. Their product is not like our product. Hip hop is underground, but our product was different. Our groups are different. Our messages were different. This generation now has no message. I think this new generation is going to be the message generation because they're coming hard in the paint. The FBA, ADOS mentality. These kids are going to come hard in the paint. These are kids that grew up with parents who listen to original Hammer stuff and Let's Get It Started and Here Comes the Hammer and listen to BDP and listen to LL Cool J. These are the spawns of this that's coming. They're coming. Just like Hammer and them listen to James Brown. This spawn is coming. This new wave is about to hit, and they're gonna they're gonna revitalize hip hop, which is dying but needs a revitalization. And if you listen to the video game, you're starting to hear the beats change up. They're getting harder and harder. So this generation coming to understand that hip hop is a tribal music, is bass filled, it's is power tracks. It's not everybody trying to sing and shit. Everybody is not a singer. You can't sing all your lyrics. You gotta inspire. So I think we're getting back to that. But by this time in hip hop is starting to change. Got a lot of lyricists around at this time, and they begin to call Hammer or say that Hammer is not a rapper by the time Too Legit to Quit. His rap is garbage, boom, boom, boom. Now, Hammer's got his own rap style. He never really changed it. But when he gets to Too Legit to Quit, I think the criticism started to hit him. And then the worst thing that the worst thing that can happen to anybody that's on top of their game and they got a standard is once they get criticized, they try to be like everybody else because they think they got to prove. Now, Hammer ain't got shit to prove. He making more money than any of these folks. He started from hustling up to get to a record deal too. I got the record deal. Hey, I've got a network in place. I'm making millions of dollars to. Oh well, they dissing me. They think I ain't real because Hammer's he a street dude. He from Oakland. He an Oakland dude. So yeah, you gonna feel a certain type of way if people start to criticize you and then start to criticize your street creds. So he felt a certain way. So he decided, man, yeah, well, I gotta come. I gotta switch it up. And when we hear Too Legit to Quit, the beat is tight. Felton Polat is at his best with Too Legit to Quit. But Hammer ain't there. Hammer has changed up his style. And if you listen to Too Legit to Quit, it's not a good song lyrically. And that's what people caught when Too Legit to Quit came out. And it was like, okay, lyrically, this is not the greatest version of Hammer. He's trying to rap in a tempo that's not him. And that's how rappers get themselves in trouble. That's how Drake, in my opinion, got himself in trouble trying to be like all these other rappers who weren't at his level. Drake has the ability to sing and rap. He has the ability to do both. But when he started to try to sound like kids that was coming behind him, he started messing up. His songs just started to sound like all the other garbage that was on the radio. He didn't set the bar high when he got away from Lil Wayne and them. Even with Wayne, when Wayne started to sound like the garbage that was on the radio, the bar went down. The bar went down because they allowed media to tell them, well, you need to sound like him, or you need because you got to sell. Not looking at the fact that the record labels were dying. I mean, music wasn't moving the same way. So at that point, when you see this, okay, let me step away, keep my style, utilize social media, and be able to keep my brand strong. As Prince did. Prince kept his own brand strong. When he walked away from Warner, Prince didn't die. Prince got stronger. But Prince had something that other entertainers didn't have. He was an entertainer by nature. He was an entertainer by nature. He knew how to perform. He knew how to get out there, and he knew when he had to. But Prince had already moved to the internet and internet sales, and everybody else was kind of catching up. They were kind of catching up. They're trying to keep up with Prince. So when Too Legit to Quit comes, Hammer tries to switch up his style, and that begins this downfall. Because now they were able to say, see, Hammer can't rap. See, his lyrics are garbage. He drank the Kool-Aid. And from that, financially, with, mismanagement of the business, things start to fall apart from Hammer. Things starts to fall apart for Hammer. So by the time we get the pumps and the bump, it's pretty much over for Hammer. Hammer has become everybody else By the 90s, he's everybody else, early 90s. And he has tried to conform to what hip hop says he has to sound like. Instead of continuing to be Hammer, setting his own bar and allowing people to decide, hey, we don't want to listen to Hammer anymore. But instead, he bought into some edges of hip hop. First, oh man, well, you too old. You too old to rap. The adages of hip hop they tried to throw at people. Remember now, he came out in 88. KRS-One was just getting momentum with that second album in 88 when BDP had their second album. They just getting momentum. KRS-One is just building up. When they get in the 90s, KRS-One is going to explode after Edutainment. He's got some more years to go before he finally shuts down about, what, 93, 94? And even then he kept going. So Hammer had his own standard. Think about it. KRS-One never changed his rap style. If you listen to KRS-One, his rap style does not change. His rap style don't change. He gets a little faster, but he still raps about the same thing, same type of concept. He doesn't change. BDP stayed the same. Public Enemy over the years have changed up. I think I really stopped liking and did not like the way that Chuck D started rapping. I don't know if it was just a lack of the Shockleys that kind of switched them up, but I really didn't like that Chuck kind of changed his rap style. I don't feel you have to change your rap style. You be you. You talk about what you've been talking about. Your beats continue to be the same. People will decide if they like it or if they don't. Ice Cube never really changed his rap style. Now, over the years, he would try to play the commercial game, and those albums really did not do that good. When Cube tried to sound like everybody else, his albums didn't sound good. They didn't. But when Cube stayed consistent to Cube, those was the albums that people liked. And Cube got better with the storytelling albums. Hey, he stuck to what worked. Hammer forgot what was working. He forgot what was working. So the time we get the pumps and the bump, who cares? Because at that point, Hammer has tried to sound like everybody else, and they successfully did what they wanted to do. Get his ass out the game. Get him out the game. He's setting the bar too high financially. He's got his business in order where we thought he did until, he had his headache. He's not broke. No, Hammer's not stupid. But we went a long way away from let's get it started. We went from pure, nasty, hard Hammer to too much commercial. And then he started to buy into too much commercial. Well, this is what's selling. This is what's selling. That's fine. But you got to keep being consistent with your albums. Keep being consistent with your message. Because if you're just creating songs that entertain, just keep creating songs that entertain. You can throw message raps in, which Hammer did, but just keep making the same type of entertaining songs. You just want to keep entertaining people. So Hammer forgot about that. He forgot about that. And as he got more popular, he got more away from himself. He got more away from his original concept of Hammer to nobody really cared. And they got him out of the game. Too Short was still going. Think about it. Too Short Huckleberry, he's never changed his rap style. Too Short has rapped the same way since he started. Now he got a little bit faster with some songs like the song about the whistle, Blow the Whistle. He a little bit faster than that. But for the most part, Too Short never changed his rap style. He stayed Oakland. He stayed who he was. Hammer changed his rap style because they got at him. They criticized him. And it bothered him to the point where he switched. He flipped up. So never let him get at you. Never let him get at you. If you're going to be an artist, you're the standard. Keep the standard high. The industry can damage you because the industry will tell you, oh well, you got to switch it up to this and you do this, or when it's time to switch up, you don't. Think about artists who used to do doo-wop and didn't switch up. And then they struggled because they still were trying to do. Frankie Lyman, a perfect example, was on a record label who, okay, I got Frankie Lyman, he doing doo-wop. Okay, take him over to Motown. Take Frankie to Motown at this point. After you've done everything with Frankie, hey, Frankie, it's time for you to go over here to Motown. We about to switch it up. Because he ain't the first doo-wop artist who had to switch it up. Think about the Isley Brothers. That's where they started from, and they moved out of that to what you have now. They were able to adapt and change in a new environment and find another style. Because sometimes we can find another style or create another style for ourselves that works. James Brown was a singer who created another style. Hammer had a style that he should have kept. Because rappers, for the most part, have to find a style, hone a style, and keep a style. You just can't keep flipping like IHOP. Jay-Z is one of those type of artists who never really had a style. That's why he really never really has but a couple of legendary songs. But any song of content, no. Jay-Z has no songs of content. He really has no songs of content. I like Jay-Z as a rapper at times, but compared to Biggie, compared to Tupac, compared to Eminem, compared to Kanye West, he's not on that level. Jay just made some money. He came at a time when there was nobody left, and the record label said, hey, this is the new guy, and we're going to flood the market with him, because that's all they did. Every damn 5 to 10 minutes you heard a different Jay-Z song. So, no, he's not a great rapper. He never really was. He never was. They made you believe he was. That's like Kamala Harris could be a great president. No, they're making you believe she can be a great president because they're flooding the market with her. And then when she get in office, y'all gonna find out, no, she's not a great president. She's not ready, and somebody said that she ain't ready for that. She's not ready for that type of position. But same in hip hop. They do that. They flood the market. They give you too much. And that's what they did with Hammer. They gave you too much Hammer. And then you get tired of them. It's just like Kevin Hart. They're flooding the market with Kevin Hart. It's going to come a point where if Kevin don't get his money in the next 3-4 years, it's pretty much over. People going to be tired of Kevin Hart. It's too much. It's too much. Kevin should be able to go on a hiatus like Eddie Murphy and hit when he needs to hit. Look how Eddie Murphy treated. The only bomb Eddie had was Coming to America 2, which was just God butt booty horrible. But he took the Dolomite piece, boom, took it to Netflix, exploded. Did the Coming to America, yeah, they got some streaming, but it sucked. But then he comes back with Axel Foley, explodes. Taking those breaks, taking those hiatus, knowing when to hit. It's not constant. It's not every 5 or 10 minutes I'm going to hit you with myself. I don't have to. I am Eddie Murphy. Kevin don't realize he's Kevin Hart. And when you forget that, you think, I got to get it all, I got to get it all, get it all. And the mentality, people get fucking sick and tired of you. They don't want to see you. And that's a mistake Hammer made. Too much Hammer. Too much Hammer at the time. Think about Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson did not do a gang of commercials. I want you to go back in the histories of Michael Jackson, the annals of Michael Jackson. You can count the amount of commercials Michael Jackson did. You can count them. You can count them. You're not going to have a lot of commercials by Michael Jackson. You're not going to have a flood of Michael Jackson. You had those periods when Mike hit where boom. And then Mike will fade off. And then Mike will come back. It never was like that with Mike. It wasn't, oh, it was a Michael Jackson movie every 2 seconds. No. He didn't flood the market with himself. He was smart enough to know that that shit don't go well after a while. People get tired of you. They don't want to fuck with you no more. It's not like an athlete. An athlete can flood the market. And the only thing he got to pray is he don't get hurt, like Bo Jackson. Remember, Bo Jackson flooded the market, got hurt. Pretty much that finishes an athlete once you flood the market and then get hurt. Michael Jordan had a great career, didn't get hurt. He was able to flood the market, get away with it. LeBron James does not flood the market because, he's not that appealing in commercials, number one. But, even with him, he knows, hey, enough is enough. Too much is overdoing it. So Hammer, I think, flooded the market. People got bored with Hammer. People started hating on Hammer. The criticism got to Hammer. And like I said, by the time we get to Too Legit to Quit, they're done with Hammer. He rides Too Legit to Quit, but after that, they're finished with him. They're like, yeah. Because he switched up his style, and that hurt him. So this is my opinion. Like I say, some people might feel that, Hammer still had momentum after Too Legit to Quit. I just feel like the criticism was too hard at that point. It was coming into the 90s pretty much. They really started attacking Hammer. And by the time of Pumps and the Bumps, it was pretty much over. Pretty much over for Hammer. Because in my opinion, he kind of came away from who he was. And he never got back. He never got back to that urban feel that I think at that time would have saved him. If he just would have went to that urban feel and really just started doing shows, I think that would have carried Hammer enough where he didn't have to drop that many albums. He could have dropped his album here, boom, fed on his momentum, put some artists behind him, did some shows with just artists behind him or in front of him. Is a lot of different things Hammer could have did to kind of keep himself going. I think that, he just didn't play his cards right. Because if you got that momentum, you got all these West Coast rappers, you don't have, if you, business-wise, you could do it a certain way where you can still stay relevant, but also you can let these guys shine, but keep yourself relevant over the years. Where Hammer should still be able to get on stage and do his thing, and it just be a Hammer. It'd be a Hammer time. So it's kind of like Dougie Fresh. Dougie Fresh remained relevant in hip hop. Dougie Fresh will always be relevant in hip hop because Dougie Fresh just continued to be Dougie. Remember, Dougie tried to switch up. By the time he tried to switch up, the game was over. People didn't like that shit. They like Dougie. This is the show, the entertainer. And when you see Dougie at shows, he still does the same stick. He still does the show. He still gets that love because he knows what works and he knows, hey, this was something that's groundbreaking. Nobody's done anything like the show in hip hop since that time. They never did. So, as hip hop artists, remember, set the standard. What is the standard going to be? Sounding like everybody else is not the standard. Sounding like everybody else is not the standard. Don't get caught up in, I want to sound like him because in my mind that's selling. No, you got to know how to perform. You got to know how to get on that stage. And you got to have something different that ain't nobody doing it, but it's got to be yours and keep it. Don't give it away. Don't let it go because people criticize it. Let them criticize. For everybody that criticizes, there's going to be a whole handful of people that like it. Mr. Moxie Back Row Ministry, and this was my take on the career and pitfalls of MC Hammer.